She asked the dead and forgot the ever-living. Help comes only from Allah. No grave can hear, no saint can answer.
Laiba Khan tried to scream, but no sound came out. Her mouth was open, her chest was burning, her heart was pounding so hard it felt like it would tear her apart from the inside, but her voice was gone, completely gone. It was as if the darkness around her had swallowed not just the air, but her words too. She didn't know where she was. There were no walls she could see, no sky, no ground she could recognize, only a crushing pressure, tight, unbearable, pressing in from every direction. I only asked, she whispered inside her heart. I only asked for help. Her body trembled, not from cold, from fear, a fear she had never felt in her entire life. Moments ago, at least what felt like moments ago, Laiba Khan was alive, breathing, walking, thinking, hoping. And now, she couldn't even tell if time still existed. Images began to flash before her eyes, hands raised in prayer, soft voices murmuring wishes, her own forehead touching stone. No, her heart cried. That wasn't wrong. That wasn't wrong. The pressure grew tighter. She felt something move beneath her, like the earth itself was closing in. Her ribs ached, her breath became shallow. Every attempt to inhale felt heavier than the last. Suddenly, a thought struck her with terrifying clarity. What if this isn't a dream? Her heart raced faster. She wanted to call out to God, but the name wouldn't come to her lips. She wanted to cry, but even tears felt trapped inside her. Instead, another name rose in her mind, a name she had whispered many times before, a name she had trusted. Please, she begged silently, help me. Silence answered her, a deep, endless silence. Panic surged through her like fire. That can't be right, she thought desperately. They always help me. They never turn me away. The darkness didn't respond. The pressure tightened again, harder this time, until pain shot through her entire body. It wasn't sharp, it wasn't sudden, it was slow, crushing, relentless. And then, in that suffocating stillness, a terrifying realization began to form. What if the ones I trusted can't hear me now? Her heart sank. A wave of regret washed over her, so heavy it felt worse than the pain. Memories she had once pushed aside now stood before her, clear and unavoidable. I never denied God, she tried to convince herself. I believed. But belief she was now beginning to understand was not just words. The darkness seemed to lean closer, as if listening, and for the first time, a question echoed through Laiba Khan's soul. A question that would not leave her, no matter how hard she tried to escape it. If I was a believer, why am I here? Far away in the world of the living, everything continued as normal. People walked, people laughed, people slept peacefully. They had no idea that Laiba Khan, once just like them, was now trapped in a reality where excuses meant nothing, and intentions could no longer be corrected. And this was only the beginning. Laiba Khan's house stood in a quiet neighborhood. Nothing grand, nothing poor, just a simple, well-kept home where mornings began with routine and nights ended with tired silence. Every day the same sounds filled the house. The soft clinking of teacups in the kitchen, the distant call of the adhan echoing through the streets, the hum of a ceiling fan spinning lazily above worn furniture. To anyone passing by, it looked like a home of peace. Inside, Laiba Khan lived the life of an ordinary Muslim woman. She woke up early. She covered her head before stepping outside. She spoke gently to her neighbors, lowered her gaze, and avoided unnecessary conflict. People respected her. She's a good woman, they would say. Quiet, decent, God-fearing. And on the surface, they were right. Her prayer mat lay folded neatly in the corner of her room. Her Quran rested on a small wooden shelf, slightly worn from time. On certain days, she gave charity. Small amounts, but with sincerity. There was nothing in her house that screamed wrongdoing. No loud music, no open sins, no rebellion. Yet hidden within the walls of that calm home was a silence deeper than anyone realized. Laiba often sat alone in her room, staring at the ceiling, her thoughts heavier than her surroundings suggested. Life hadn't been cruel to her, but it hadn't been kind either. Unanswered prayers, lingering worries, a heart that quietly carried disappointments she never spoke out loud. At night, when the lights were off and the world was asleep, her thoughts grew louder. Why does relief take so long? Why do some people get answers so quickly? And I don't, she prayed. She waited, she hoped, but patience began to feel exhausting, and slowly, almost imperceptibly, something shifted inside her. It wasn't rebellion, it wasn't denial, it was impatience wrapped in desperation. One afternoon, sitting in the courtyard of her home, Laiba listened as an elderly woman spoke to her in a hushed, confident tone. "There are people closer to Allah," the woman said. "People whose graves are not empty, whose souls still respond." Laiba didn't react at first. She only listened. The woman continued, lowering her voice as if sharing a sacred secret. "I went there once," she said. "I asked, and my problem was solved." Laiba felt something stir inside her chest. Hope, not the patient kind, but the urgent kind. That night, she sat on her prayer mat longer than usual. Her forehead touched the ground. Her lips moved, but her heart felt restless. What if Allah sends help through His special servants? She wondered. What if this is just another door, another means? The thought didn't feel sinful. It felt comforting. After all, she wasn't turning away from God, was she? She was only looking for help, anywhere it might come from. Inside her quiet home, beneath the appearance of calm faith, a small seed had been planted, a seed that would soon grow roots far deeper than she ever intended. And Laiba Khan had no idea that this single shift in her heart, so subtle, so seemingly harmless, was already changing the direction of her fate. Because sometimes the most dangerous paths don't begin with disbelief. They begin with desperation. Laiba Khan stood at the edge of the street, her dupatta pulled tightly around her shoulders. The place was quieter than she expected. No noise, no crowds, only the faint rustle of leaves and the distant sound of footsteps fading away. Ahead of her stood the shrine. Its walls were old, marked by time. Green cloths hung loosely over the entrance. Fluttering gently in the air, a faint scent of incense lingered, mixing with the dust beneath her feet. She hesitated. "I don't belong here," she told herself. "I should go back." Her feet didn't move. Inside her chest, her heart beat faster. Not with fear, but with something dangerously close to hope. People had spoken about this place with certainty. "Go there," they said. "Ask it sincerely. No one leaves empty-handed." Laiba took a slow step forward, then another. Each step felt heavier than the last, as if something unseen was watching, waiting. Inside the courtyard, a few people sat silently. Some whispered prayers, some cried softly. Others pressed their foreheads to the stone floor, their hands stretched toward the grave in front of them. Laiba's breath caught in her throat. "They're just asking," she thought, "just like me." She lowered herself to the ground, keeping a small distance at first. Her hands trembled as she folded them in her lap. "This is only a means," she whispered to herself. "Allah knows my heart." She closed her eyes for a moment. She tried to pray as she always had. Directly, quietly, carefully choosing her words. But the atmosphere around her felt heavy, charged with emotion. She opened her eyes again. The grave was right there, covered in cloth, surrounded by flowers, touched by countless hands before hers. Her heart raced. What harm could it do? "I'm not worshiping. I'm only asking," slowly, almost without realizing it. Laiba leaned forward. Her forehead brushed the cold stone. A strange calm washed over her. Relief. Tears filled her eyes as words spilled from her lips, words she had held inside for years. "I'm tired," she whispered. "I just want peace." She stayed there longer than she planned. When she finally stood up, her legs felt weak, her mind strangely light. As she walked away from the shrine, something unexpected happened. For the first time in a long while, she felt hopeful. Maybe this was the answer, she thought. Maybe this is how my prayers will finally be heard. That night, back in her room, Laiba lay awake staring at the ceiling. Her heart felt calm, but somewhere deep inside, a quiet voice stirred. Why did that feel easier than prayer? She turned to her side, pulling the blanket closer, pushing the thought away. "It was just one visit," she murmured. "Just once." But faith, once redirected, even slightly, rarely stays still. And though Laiba Khan didn't know it yet, that single step she took toward the grave was already pulling her further away from the one who could truly hear her. At first, Laiba Khan didn't return for weeks. She told herself she wouldn't. It was only once, she repeated in her mind. A moment of weakness, nothing more. But something had changed. Her prayers felt quieter now, longer, yet emptier. She still stood on her prayer mat, still raised her hands, still whispered her needs, yet the calm she once felt was missing. And then, one small thing happened. A problem, minor, almost insignificant, resolved itself unexpectedly. Laiba's heart tightened. Was that? Because of the visit, the thought scared her, but it also comforted her. Days later, she found herself walking down the same street again. This time, her steps didn't hesitate. The shrine welcomed her with the same stillness, the same scent of incense, the same silent certainty hanging in the air. She lowered herself near the grave more quickly now, as if she already knew her place. Her voice came easier this time. "I came again," she whispered. "Please, don't turn me away." Nothing answered, and yet, she felt heard. Soon, one shrine became two. Two became many, each with its own story, each with its own promise. This one is known for healing. That one never lets a wish go unanswered. Go there on Thursdays, light a candle, tie a thread, leave something behind. Laiba followed every instruction carefully. Not out of worship, she told herself, but out of hope. Her room began to change. Prayer beads from different shrines, small claws folded neatly in a drawer, written wishes tucked between pages of old notebooks. She still prayed to Allah, but now she planned her prayers around her visits. When fear struck her heart, her first thought was no longer Salah, it was the grave. They understand, she would say quietly. They're closer, closer. The words settled deep inside her chest. In moments of desperation, a dangerous belief began to form, soft at first, almost invisible. Allah is above the heavens, she thought, but they are right here. One night, overwhelmed by worry, Laiba fell to her knees, not on her prayer mat, but on the cold floor beside her bed. Her lips moved before her heart could stop them. "Help me," she whispered. "I've done everything you asked." She froze. The weight of her words pressed down on her. Everything you asked. A flicker of guilt passed through her mind, but it faded quickly. After all, she wasn't rejecting God. She was only taking help through others. That's what she told herself. Outside, the call to prayer echoed faintly through the night. Laiba didn't rise. Instead, she sat in silence, her thoughts tangled, her heart divided. Unknowingly, she had crossed a line, not in her actions alone, but in her belief. She had begun to rely, and reliance, once misplaced, becomes chains that are hard to break. Far away beneath layers of earth and stone, the graves remained exactly as they had always been, silent, still, powerless. But Laiba Khan no longer saw them that way, and with every visit, every whisper, every bow, she moved further from the truth and closer to a moment she would one day beg to escape. The day Laiba Khan died did not feel special. There were no signs in the sky, no warnings in the wind, no sudden fear in her heart. It was an ordinary morning. Sunlight slipped through the curtains of her room as it always had. The ceiling fan hummed softly above her bed. Somewhere in the house, a cup was set down on a table, the sound familiar and comforting. Laiba woke up feeling tired, but she often did. She sat on the edge of her bed for a moment, rubbing her temples, gathering herself for another day. Her thoughts wandered, as they usually did, toward her worries, and toward the places she believed understood her pain. She whispered a short prayer under her breath, not long, not deep, just enough to feel like she hadn't forgotten. She went about her routine quietly, folded her clothes, straightened the room, adjusted her dupatta before stepping outside. If anyone had seen her that morning, they would have seen nothing unusual. No one would have guessed that these were her final hours. Later that day, as the world moved on around her, Laiba felt a sudden heaviness in her chest. She paused, took a breath, then another. The air felt thick, harder to pull in. It's nothing, she told herself, but her heartbeat began to race. Not fast, uneven, as if it had forgotten its rhythm. She reached out, steadying herself against the wall. Her vision blurred. In that brief moment of confusion, a strange thought crossed her mind. Not fear, not panic, but habit. I should go there, she thought. I should ask. Her knees gave way before the thought could finish. Laiba Khan collapsed to the floor. By the time help arrived, her body was already still. Her eyes were half open, her lips slightly parted, as if she had been about to speak and never finished. News of her death spread quietly. There was no illness, people said. It was sudden. Allah's will. Her body was washed, wrapped in white, carried by familiar hands. People gathered, standing in rows, their heads bowed. She was a good woman, someone whispered. She never harmed anyone. Prayers were offered for her forgiveness, tears were shed, the earth opened, and Laiba Khan was lowered into it. As the soil fell gently onto her grave, the world of the living moved on, heavy with grief, but calm in certainty. No one questioned her fate. No one suspected that the real journey had only just begun. Because as the last footsteps faded away, as the voices above her disappeared, as the darkness closed in, Laiba Khan opened her eyes and realized she was not alone. Laiba Khan opened her eyes, but there was no sky above her, no light, no space, no air that felt free. Darkness wrapped around her from every side, thick, heavy, alive. The ground beneath her felt hard and cold, pressing into her body in a way she had never known before. She tried to move. She couldn't. Her arms felt pinned. Her chest felt crushed. Every breath came with effort, as if the earth itself was tightening around her. Panic surged through her veins. This isn't right, her mind screamed. This isn't how it's supposed to be. Her heart pounded wildly as memories rushed back all at once. The funeral, the prayers, the earth falling on her grave. I'm dead, she realized. The thought shattered something inside her. Fear unlike anything she had ever felt gripped her soul. Not fear of pain, but fear of truth. Her lips trembled. Allah, she tried to say. The word felt heavy on her tongue, unfamiliar, delayed. The darkness pressed closer, her breath shortened. In desperation, another name rose instinctively in her heart, the name she had whispered so many times before. "Please," she cried, "you helped me before. Help me now." She waited. Nothing answered. The silence was unbearable. Her heart sank as understanding began to dawn. She tried again, more urgently this time. She begged, she pleaded, but the graves she had trusted remained exactly as they were, silent, motionless, unable. The pressure increased. The walls around her seemed to close in, squeezing her from both sides. Her ribs ached. Her body trembled violently as a suffocating weight pressed down upon her. "This can't be happening," she sobbed. "I didn't worship them. I only asked." But intentions no longer mattered here. Only truth. A wave of regret crashed over her, so powerful it burned deeper than fear. "I asked the dead," she realized, "and I forgot the ever-living." Her heart cried out now, not in habit, not in desperation, but in pure terror. "Oh Allah, forgive me." This time her voice came from a place she had ignored her entire life. But the grave did not loosen its grip. The darkness did not retreat. Instead, a crushing realization settled over her soul. This was not punishment for one visit, not for one bow, but for the belief she had allowed to grow. Tears streamed down her face, but there was no one to wipe them away. Her body shook as the weight became unbearable. And in that suffocating darkness, Laiba Khan understood something with horrifying clarity. Those she had relied upon in life had no power in death, and the one who held all power was the one she had turned away from when she needed him most. Far above her, the world remained unaware. People slept peacefully, lights flickered off, life continued. But beneath the earth, Laiba Khan faced a truth that could no longer be denied. In the grave, there are no intermediaries, no shortcuts, no second chances, only reality. And this was not the end. The night was quiet, but the air was thick with unease. Far away in a small room, a woman slept. Suddenly, her eyes snapped open. In her dream, or was it reality, she saw a figure lying in a dark, suffocating space. The face was familiar. It was Laiba Khan. Her body trembled violently. She tried to call out, but no sound came from her own mouth. And then she saw it, what Laiba had never realized in life. The graves she had trusted, the graves she had bowed to and whispered to, the graves that had never, ever answered. They remained silent. The woman watching screamed in her mind as she saw Laiba pleading, crying, her chest crushed, her lips moving in desperation. "I only asked," Laiba's voice echoed in the darkness. "I didn't turn away from God. Please help me." But no help came. The woman woke up with a gasp, drenched in sweat. Her heart raced uncontrollably. Somewhere in her soul, she knew what she had seen was not a dream. It was a warning. The next day, the story spread quietly. Some people whispering of Laiba Khan's sudden death, others recalling the shrines she visited, and those who had seen her in their dreams never forgot the expression on her face. A face twisted by regret, a heart broken by misplaced trust, a soul crushed by the weight of a truth that could no longer be ignored. For Laiba Khan, it was too late. For the living, it was a message. The one who truly hears is Allah alone, the ever-living, the all-powerful. No grave, no saint, no mortal can carry your pleas. No shortcut exists between you and him. Her story, shown to the living, left a chill that no warmth could erase. And in every quiet night, whenever someone turned their heart toward the wrong place, they remembered the horror of a woman who asked the dead and forgot the ever-living. Laiba Khan had learned the truth too late. The darkness had revealed it in the most terrifying way. The graves she had trusted, those silent, unmoving stones, had no power. The saints she had bowed to could not hear, could not act, could not help. They were as lifeless as the earth around them. All the prayers, all the hope she had placed in intermediaries were wasted. The one who truly holds power, the ever-living, the all-knowing, had never left her side, but she had turned away when she needed him most. She remembered the visits, the whispers, the bows, the promises she had made to herself. "I am only asking. I am not denying God." It had not been enough. Intentions without correct belief cannot bridge the gap. Desperation without reliance on Allah alone cannot bring relief. And now in the darkness of the grave, Laiba Khan realized it was not the act of asking that had condemned her. It was the displacement of her trust, the turning away from the one who hears every heart in favor of the powerless. Her cries echoed in the silence. "Oh Allah, forgive me." But the lesson for the living had already begun. People who had seen her in dreams or glimpsed her fate remembered the terror in her eyes, the fear that comes not from death itself, but from realizing too late that the path you chose cannot save you. And in their hearts, one truth became clear. Help comes only from Allah. No grave, no saint, No worldly intermediary can answer your pleas. Faith is not just words, it is trust and reliance, directed toward the ever-living alone. Her story lingered like a shadow over the living, not to punish but to warn, and the final words, whispered into eternity, remained etched in every soul that learned of her fate. She asked the dead and forgot the ever-living, "Never let your heart wander from him, for there is no other helper in this world or the next